Good morning.
Good morning.
We're going to chapter 25, employment and unemployment, the causes and effects. So in this chapter, I want to know the meaning of unemployment and the reasons why there's unemployment within the economy. So first, what is employment itself? Because we don't talk about unemployment without actually talking about employment itself. So employment simply means you are engaged, you have a job, that is employment. And for unemployment, it's the opposite, which means certain individual continue to seek for or look for a job, but he or she couldn't get one, couldn't secure one. That is unemployment. I think you understand employment and unemployment. So why do we have unemployment? There are two reasons for unemployment. We have supply side reason and demand side reasons. For demand side, it's about cyclical, and supply side, the rest of all the reasons we have are supply side reasons for unemployment. So we're going to start with the first one, which is frictional. For frictional unemployment occurs because certain individual leaves a job and seek for a new one. So the time in between I stop working here to look for a new job is frictional because it is temporary, it's short term. Do we get frictional here? It is frictional because you are leaving a job, you left a job to seek for a new one. So it's not going to last forever, it's just going to be for a short period of time. So that's why we call it frictional or temporary. So we call it temporary because it's in the time in between you leaving one job to seek for a new one. Do we understand temporary here? So another word for temporary is called frictional. So we call it frictional or temporary. Any question about that? Any question, please?
No.
Good. The second one is seasonal unemployment. For seasonal, it simply means certain individuals will not have a job at a certain period in the year, maybe during the winter or during the summer. So people might not have job at that point in time. So that will continue to happen year in, year out. So that is why it's called seasonal. Do we get seasonal here? You cannot prevent it because it is natural. So as soon as maybe some people they have jobs during winter, some have jobs during summer. During summer, like the tourists, those that are involved in tourism, they sell more during summer than winter. Yes or no? Good. So those ones might be out of job during winter. So year in, year out, it will always occur. So we call it seasonal unemployment. Do we understand seasonal here? It's different from frictional. For frictional, it means the time in between I'm leaving a job to seek for a new one. That is frictional or temporary. And for seasonal, it simply means at a specific period in a year, I do not have a job. And it will continue to reoccur year in, year out. Do we get it, please? The third one is structural. For structural unemployment, I wrote, this is an unemployment which occurs as a result of the supply of labor being greater than the demand for labor in an individual labor market. So for structural, it simply talks about the supply side of the economy, which means we are unable to get a job based on the fact that the supply of labor exceeds the demand for labor in a certain market, maybe the educational industry. In the educational industry, for example, when we have a lot of teachers, more than the demand for teachers, that is structural. Do we get structural here? It is structural because the supply of labor in a specific or in an individual market is greater than the demand for labor in that individual market. So I'm making an example of the educational market or the educational industry. Note, market and industry are the same. If we call it a market, we call it an industry, it's still the same. So if the supply for labor increases in an educational industry, which is like the supply of teachers are increasing more than the demand for teachers, that will bring about structural unemployment. Do we understand structural unemployment here? So for structural unemployment, we can classify it into technological, cyclical, and real wage unemployment. So I'm going to start with technological. We call it technological unemployment because workers are being replaced with technology. So there's advancement in technology which allows businesses to invest more on capital investment than workers. So that brings about technological unemployment. Do we get it or not, please? We call it technological unemployment because workers are being replaced with machines. So with advancement in technology, so we feel like machines can do better, like robots can do better than workers. So they are being replaced. That is technological unemployment. Just same as AI is replacing a lot of things now. Do you understand technological here? What's that? Stop that for me, please. The second one, cyclical unemployment. We call it cyclical unemployment because it is cyclical. This will happen because the demand for goods or services in that economy reduces. So we have cyclical unemployment based on the fact that the aggregate demand within the economy is falling. And when we talk about aggregate demand, it simply talks about the total demand within the economy. So if the total demand within the economy continues to fall or is insufficient, it will bring about cyclical unemployment. How does it bring about cyclical unemployment? It brings about cyclical unemployment based on the fact that, one, if demand continues to fall, it means businesses will not be able to make revenue as they used to make. So if they are not making revenue, they wouldn't have any other choice than to reduce the numbers of workers they have, or to reduce the amount of wages paid to workers. So workers that cannot accept reduction in their wages would have to leave the job. So firms would not be able to make profit as they used to make because people are not buying. So if people are not buying, how will firms make money? So they're not going to make money, so then workers have to be laid off. So it is cyclical. I don't have money because I don't have money, then I'm not buying from a business. The business is not making money because I am not buying from it. Then the business is not going to be able to pay workers or employ more workers or expand because consumers are not buying. So it is cyclical. So we have cyclical unemployment mostly during recession, and we know what recession is. A fall in economic activity for 2 consecutive quarters. That means for the last 6 months, the economic activity is in decline. Things are not working fine. So during recession, it is expected that demand for goods and services would reduce. And if they are reducing, it means firms will not be making revenue. So workers have to be laid off. So that is cyclical unemployment. Do we understand cyclical here?
Yes.
So here I said workers are unemployed and there is underutilization of capital. So let's quickly look at underutilization of capital. If firms are not making revenue as they used to make, a lot of machines or a lot of equipment will not be used. Yes or no? Because there's no point using it. We don't have to increase our output. Offices will be empty because workers are leaving. So there's underutilization of capital based on the fact that output is not increasing. Firms are not producing as they used to produce. A lot of workers are being disengaged. So offices will be empty. Machines will not be working as they used to work. That is underutilization of capital. Do we get it, please? Then the last one is real wage unemployment. Before we go to real wage unemployment, what is real wage? There's wage, which is the nominal wage. We have real wage because it has been adjusted with inflation. So most of the time when there's inflation, there's what we call indexation. We'll do that after this class. So there's indexation, which means we adjust our wages or taxes based on the fact that inflation is increasing. So when there's real wage unemployment, because firms do not want to pay the real wage, which is mostly the minimum wage. So if government has set a minimum wage, firms might find it difficult to pay. So, which means if we are unable to pay the minimum wage, it means we won't be able to employ more workers. So those that are unemployed, this is the situation. Real wage unemployment will occur because businesses will not be able to pay the minimum wage. So if businesses are unable to pay the minimum wage, those that are unemployed will be willing to accept whatever wage firms wants to pay them. But knowing fully well that it is illegal to pay below the minimum wage. Get the point here. These are the situation. There are workers that are unemployed. There are firms that cannot pay the minimum wage. So they have two contrasting situations. So those workers that are unemployed, they are eager, they are anxious, they want to get a job. Yes or no? So they might be willing to take below the minimum wage, isn't it? Isn't it, please?
Yes.
Because they don't have a job, they need income. They want to improve their life. So whatever the firms are willing to pay, they might take it, which is not minimum. Firms, on the other hand, will be willing to pay such. But for the fact that it is illegal to pay below the minimum wage, will not allow businesses to pay such. So those that are unemployed will remain unemployed. Because how do we know that you are accepting this low wage and afterwards you report us to the government? Because it is illegal. Do we get the point here? So those that are unemployed may remain unemployed because firms do not want to pay up the minimum wage. They are willing to pay below it. workers that are unemployed workers are willing to get it or take it. But firms are scared to pay such because it is illegal. Do we understand? That's the first reason why we could have real wage unemployment. The second reason why we could have real wage unemployment is that if the amount of money paid, like on unemployment benefits paid to unemployed workers, is higher than the amount of money you could get when you are working, then why do I have to work? If I could get more being unemployed than working, so what's the point of working? Do you get the point I'm making there? So if the amount of money government is paying to work to unemployed workers is higher than the average amount of money you could get for doing the job, you might choose not to work. Is it clear?
Yes.
Any question about unemployment? Thank you.